Popcorn is weird. It starts as a rock-hard kernel, then suddenly turns into a fluffy snack with a loud pop. That's not magic. It's physics happening inside a tiny shell. In this segment, we'll zoom in on what's trapped inside the kernel, what heat does to it, and why the kernel can't hold on forever. So here's the trick. What's really happening inside that little hole right before it explodes? Each popcorn kernel isn't totally dry. It holds a small amount of moisture trapped inside, sealed in like a tiny water packet. When you heat the kernel, that moisture warms up fast. Once it gets hot enough, it turns into steam inside the kernel. Here's the key. The tough hull acts like a lid. It traps the steam, creating a pressurized environment instead of letting vapor drift away. As heating continues, the steam pressure climbs. Inside that pressurized environment, the steam can be pushed past the normal boiling point. At the same time, heat attacks the hard starch inside the kernel. It starts changing from rigid and glassy to something more flexible. That change is called gelatinized starch. The starch absorbs heat and becomes soft and malleable, ready to be shaped by force. Now you've got trapped steam and softened starch together. The steam keeps expanding and the internal pressure keeps rising with nowhere to go. The hull can only handle so much. As pressure builds higher and higher, the kernel reaches a breaking point where the shell can't hold it. So far, we've seen moisture turn into steam, the hull trap it into a pressurized environment, and heat soften the inside into gelatinized starch. But here's where it gets interesting. All that pressure is basically a countdown. The moment the hull fails, everything changes in a split second. What exactly happens when the shell finally gives out, and how does that make the popcorn shape right as it flips inside out? When the internal pressure finally wins, the hull can't resist anymore. It tears open in a sudden rupture that happens almost instantly. That rupture creates an escape route. Steam blasts out rapidly, like opening a shaken bottle, except the pressure was trapped inside the kernel. As steam escapes, it expands fast. That expansion pushes into the softened, gelatinized starch and forces it outward in every direction. This is the puff moment. The starch puffs outward as bubbles form and stretch, turning the compact kernel interior into a larger, airy structure. Right after the rupture, the temperature drops quickly. The sudden expansion and escaping steam remove heat, so the puffed starch starts cooling immediately. Cooling locks the shape in place. As the starch loses heat, it begins to solidify, turning from soft and stretchy into a firm, foamy form. That's why you end up with fluffy popcorn. A burst of steam expands the starch, then it solidifies before it can collapse back down. Now the pop makes sense. Popcorn pops because moisture inside turns to steam. The hull traps it, and pressure builds until the kernel bursts. In that instant, escaping steam expands the softened, gelatinized starch, making it puff outward. Then the temperature drops, the starch starts to solidify, and the new shape gets locked in. One tiny sealed kernel turns into a fluffy piece of popcorn because heat and pressure do the work. Thanks for watching. If this made you curious, leave a question or topic you want explained next in the comments. I'm turning everyday questions into short explainers, so subscribe if you want to see more.